imagine one of the hardest things out of creating a game in-game development is trying to please the mass majority. Because you're never going to, in anything in life, please everyone, and that's just how it goes. You're not going to be able to get everybody up to that 100% satisfaction rate, but you can attempt to try and please the majority of people that are partaking in that. That's one thing that I think while a lot of people might take a look at what Call of Duty World War II had in its shortcomings at the very launch of the game with all the technical bugs and issues there, I think that it's cool that we as a community have had kind of some say in how things have gone. And granted, the customer is not always right. That phraseology to live by in terms of management isn't always 100% true, but the community has gotten a few things right, and thus we've had some changes made because of our direct involvement within feedback to Sledgehammer about Call of Duty World War II. So today, I want to examine 7 things that actually were changed in Call of Duty World War II because of our direct feedback. Some stuff that not only is cool to take a look at how we as a community changed the game, but also how we might have a positive impact on the game in the future as well. So if you guys have anything you want to throw in here, maybe we can do a little follow-up video if that's what you guys are into. You want to see some more changes that were made because of us voicing our opinions. Again, just let me know down there in the comment section down below. But jumping right into it here, let's start out with one that I think is probably the biggest of things that was changed, that being ADS and sprint out times for World War II. Now, as you guys probably know, once again, from the very beginning, all the way back from the E3 gameplay, the early beta, the beta itself, there was a lot of talk about the sprint out times within World War II, and it was consistently seen as slower than that of different titles within the franchise. So a lot of people had some issues. If you guys were a run and gun player, this directly affected you. Now, previously there were ways to counter this, but they weren't necessarily anything that a lot of people would consciously think about. You could either use one, the gunslinger basic training, in which you could end up firing while sprinting, so you didn't have to break your sprint to go into that fire and engagement in a gunfight, but it was again something that you'd have to sacrifice a basic training just for that, just to be able to have a quicker air quote sprint out time or to nullify that. Also, you could end up breaking your sprints and having quick draw on your weapon to have a sort of snapping effect, but that was something that, again, you have to consciously think about that, and in the moment, not many people would be able to get that down perfectly. So after a lot of different talks about it and a lot of different denials that it would even happen, Sledgehammer actually did put out a change to this about a month ago at this point in time, in which they ended up buffing the base ADS speeds for SMGs in particular for sprint out times, but also buffed the ADS times for other weapon classifications, but kept it so that SMGs, the most prominently affected of that sprint out times, had still the significant advantage. So sprint out times across the board were all adjusted, and as it stands right now, sure, it might not be exactly where a lot of people want it to be in the sense of maybe a classic Black Ops 2 sprint out time or another title that might spring to your mind immediately, but it is definitely way better than it was before. Another big thing that was actually recently just messed around with is actually the hardcore game modes, because one thing that a lot of people were not too fond of immediately was the way Call of Duty World War II handled team killing. You could essentially just be a griefer or a troll and nothing would really all that much come as a repercussion to you playing the game and doing that. But again, while it might have taken a little bit of time to get there to that point in time where a change has been made, we ended up seeing the inclusion recently of hardcore ricochet within World War II playlists, in which all the hardcore modes were in the featured playlist, to which you could end up being free of the possibility of being trolled in-game, and if a teammate ended up trying to kill you, say maybe one off a streak or something like that, they instead would die and you would take absolutely no damage for it. Same thing goes with things like aerial streaks. If you have a bombing run, that's something in which if you kill a teammate with it, you'd instead die. So different scenarios, you might be more happy with it than others, but that was something that was changed around among some various slight changes throughout that system since the game launched. But they ended up actually tweeting out a little bit of a poll trying to get some feedback, which accumulated over 38,000 responses to it, to which 64% of that actually said they liked Ricochet better. So we'll see what that in turn does for the longevity of hardcore modes within World War II, but for what it's worth, we at least see some sort of advancement here and some change due to our vocal presence. Number 3 up this list is one that was just actually added in within World War II as a new feature, something that I was really surprised we actually didn't see this up until about 4 or 5 months into the game's full life. So that that we're talking about are camos, and one thing that was persistent once again throughout the earlier couple of months of the game's launch was a little bit of a glitch that happened in which if you were to go inspect some weapons, you'd end up seeing a matte black finish on your weapons instead of what you actually have in terms of camo or variant. So that was something that, while it was a bug, a lot of people seemed to like it, and therefore a lot of people posted on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it may be, asking Sledgehammer to say, you know what, hey, let's keep this in here, it's very cool, make it a camo for everybody. And that's the first thing they actually did with the new camo DLC drops that launched with Shamrock and Awe. Now, these are a part of the Operation Overlord collection, so you don't have to get them strictly during this point in time whenever Operation Shamrock and Awe is live, so they'll be there for the rest of the game's longevity. But it is a cool thing to see that something that was a bug actually turned out to be something people really liked and became a permanent feature within the game. Next up, we're gonna keep talking about camos a little bit, and we're gonna talk more specifically about chrome camo, because if you guys remember all the way back to the launch of World War II, it was actually something you could not get chrome camo immediately. There was a challenge bugged with the Panzerschreck, and so you could not finish the weapon challenge for that, which, as you know, chrome requires you to finish all the challenges for all the weapons. So that said, you could not actually unlock it, but once it finally was unlocked, about a couple of weeks and then maybe even to a month and some days and change, when it was finally unlocked the first time, some people were quite underwhelmed because on some weapon variants and just the camo itself didn't really look all that appealing, and so for people that went through the grind, it wasn't really all that worth it. They kind of felt a little let down, and so therefore, after once again months of sort of petitioning to change it, with the introduction of these new camos that we ended up getting for Operation Shamrock and Awe, we ended up seeing an adjustment and buff to the chrome camo across the board on all weapons as well. So while of course the epic weapons still have that dirty and gritty feeling to it that does carry over if chrome is incorporated into it, it is still something that chrome has a little bit more sheen to it, it has a little bit more presence on the canvas of the weapon, and therefore has been buffed due directly to our dissatisfaction to what it was at the time of launch. Another awesome change that was made here, once again directly due to some of the involvement within the community and their outreach for this, is the new streamlined HQ menu for World War II. Now, previously we had everything once again jumbled into one sort of category in which you could easily get lost in things, and whenever headquarters was not one of those things where you could just jump in immediately to it, which if you guys don't recall, at the very launch of the game, you didn't have the option to enter in the headquarters or not. You immediately were just placed into it. So with all these server issues and everything that stemmed from that, they decided, you know what, let's not make headquarters the initial jump for multiplayer. Let's make a landing that you can choose to go right into game or into headquarters beforehand, so it makes it a little bit easier. That was something that was then placed right in front of find match, and you'd always default back to it. So a lot of people ended up going into headquarters by accident, and that's one thing that, again, not many people were too fond of. So with the communication with the community and Sledgehammer, we ended up seeing not only the adjustment of where that tab was placed, but we also later on have the inclusion of what we have now, with the mail station, Major Howard's, the quartermaster, which was already there, yes, but now in a different location, and then you had the ability to also go into the theater as well as the headquarters itself. So this new streamlined HQ is definitely a nice addition, and one that I'm really happy that we saw ended up being implemented. Next thing I want to talk about deals a little bit with gun game, because as of just a couple of weeks ago, this was still a relevant problem, and it was changed a little bit due to our communication with Sledgehammer as a community, but also something that still could be a little bit worked on. So hopefully our voices still carry some weight in this, then adjust it going further. But with the introduction of gun game as a permanent mode, it's something that is definitely gonna be on the brains of some people. So you might have come across some people in gun game that just are AFK. They're only there to farm time played or free supply drops after match completions for weapon contracts, whatever it may be. But there were a lot of people that were just AFK the entire time. And I remember seeing on Reddit, somebody ended up getting like a 58 knifing spree or something like that just because their entire lobby was AFK. And well, that not only is one, a ton of XP, but two, a big problem when one person out of a lobby is the only one active. So that sort of thing was taken a look at, and then Sledgehammer implemented the 5-minute rule where if somebody was not active within 5 minutes, they'd be kicked out of the game and somebody else could theoretically take their place. But one thing that is a little bit, once again, concerning in the sense of hopefully this goes a little further is that 5 minutes 90% of my gun game matches don't go 5 minutes entirely, so you still theoretically could be AFK the entire time, even though that safety mechanism may be in place. Now, once again, it's the gesture that I like here with this, that it was a change made, and hopefully future adjustments to the game mode can maybe see this lowered to the point where it takes a little bit less time to kick somebody that is AFK so they don't abuse that system. The final thing that I want to talk about is one that actually gives me a lot of hope for World War II in the future, and that deals with free content, because I'm sure that you've seen at least one case of somebody saying they wish there was more content within World War II since the launch of the game. With 9 multiplayer maps at launch, 10 if you count Carrington, 4 season pass holders, and then Winter Carrington, which is now free. Of course, there was not all that much before DLC 1, and that was one thing that really hyped me up about DLC 1 was just more stuff to play around with. It seemed like though I was still enjoying the game, I got a little bit bored with the offering on hand before DLC 1. But one thing that a lot of people really talked about was free content. DLC weapons, yes, we get those, but that's something you still have to gamble out a little bit. But with this most recent update for Shamrock and all, we ended up getting a free map for everybody, that being Shipment 1944. And the cool part, once again, is that the only thing that stems from is community feedback. There was no, to my knowledge, massive intrigue or interest in Shipment being added into World War II, but they did it anyway. They took the initiative and said, you know what, let's put a classic map in World War II. Nobody's really talked about it, but let's just do it. And the free thing to me is the biggest part, is if you add these in, say, a new map every month, then sure, maybe it's a remastered map or something like that, or a remake of a map, that'd be cool with me. It doesn't have to be something that is brand new entirely, but as long as you have this content that actually is a key portion of how the game is played overall, that's gonna severely help the longevity of World War II and keep players active not only, but also happy with the game. So I think that honestly, out of all the changes that we've talked about, this is probably the biggest one that Sledgehammer could have done with World War II. So I'm hoping to see this move forward with a lot more of other stuff here, and hopefully this communication and clear channel for communication continues to grow between us, the community, and Sledgehammer. So that said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Want to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything that, once again, you guys maybe want to add into this? We can maybe do a follow-up episode if you guys are so interested in that. But let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Love this stuff, hate these changes, impartial, whatever it may be, feel free to let me know down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding Call of Duty World War II, best class setups, tips, tricks, news, updates, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel. And if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is in the description below. I'm actually also really close to 9,000 followers, so if you guys want to help me out on that run, definitely would be appreciated. And if you guys also want to follow me over on Instagram, trying to get more active over there as well, so that link is also in the description. But that said, hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Take care, and peace.